Okay, just a few things. The auditors are auditing us this week, but they're doing it virtually. They mentioned they would be in at a later time to audit the ARPA funds because we're over the federal amount limit, so we have to be audited. Still no applications for the grant assistant yet.
Recording in progress.
So if you know anyone,
Recording stopped.
Can you have upped it to full-time?
yes.
Recording?
Still no. Also, you should have a packet that I gave set in front of everybody. There's an updated ARPA project list as of the moment, which we'll be talking about later on in the agenda. The next thing in the packet is I went to check out again the NACO, the National County Association, the tracker that Commissioner Michael mentioned. They had updated it quite a bit since I had been on it since. So that's this thing. And figure one, as you can see, cities are actually planning spending a lot faster than counties are. They mentioned that counties are taking a lot more time planning. Also, counties using a significant portion of funding to replace lost revenue. They're planning investments across a host of critical services, supports, and projects, dedicating the largest share of their funds to government operations. And this category includes government employee wages, hiring, fiscal health recovery, facilities, equipment, and IT. So this kind of shows you what all the other counties in the country are using their funds for.
Thank you. Thank you for preparing that.
Yeah. The other areas that they're using it for COVID response, vaccination clinics, testing sites, PPE, job assistance, investing in youth job programs, job training to dislocated workers, technical assistance programs, and grants to cover revenue losses for small businesses, crime and violence prevention, advocacy centers with police working with counselors and mental health workers, substance use programs, affordable housing projects, broadband projects, expanding child care facilities, child care assistance and training for child care workers, summer preschool programs and youth educational programs. Mental health is medicated assistance treatment for substance use disorder, recovery specialists, case managers, all for substance use, and expanding mental health services for children. Those are some of the projects that are happening throughout the U.S. The next thing in the packet is just for your info. It's the information sheet that I'll need for sub-recipients. That's in order to upload their information into the portal if we approve them for a grant. And then the next is just a draft checklist. These are all the eligible uses per the final rule, and it's broken out by section, public health, responding to negative impacts, and then the last one is broadband. So if it's on this list, it's definitely eligible. It's what they list out in the final rule. Going kind of fast because I know you got a lot of people here. The next, you can't vote on it tonight because it's not on the agenda. But per the final rule, we need to have a conflict of interest policy. And consistent with the uniform guidance. I have attached the second page where it says in the final rule that we need it. And this is what I drafted word for word out of the uniform guidance. It's like word for word. And so we'll have to have that approved by probably next meeting. All that I had today.
Any questions for the treasurer? Okay, we'll move on to the administrator's report.
I'll just give you a few things going on. I've been reviewing the net energy billing agreement, and today Dave and I had a conversation with Charlie Agnew, our energy consultant. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. I've been working with our ARPA projects and questions. Several questions have come in from various places. The staff is working on several new projects for the county needing ARPA funds. The jail control room, fire alarm system and the jail fire alarm panel, windows, audio-video system for meetings, IT issues, website, sprinkler room for the sprinkler system, replace the current cameras in the courthouse, and then you all have to figure out what we're going to do with the Historical Society space once they move across the river. And then have been involved in union negotiations and other normal employee things going on.
Questions for the administrator? Okay, we're going to move on to comments from the public. First, I'm going to recognize a group here from Spectrum, and they've come to with a presentation. Hi. And some of us represent smaller towns that are struggling with broadband, and we had a conversation on the phone of some of the programs you have that will help them, and they're going to help us understand those. Thank you. Yeah, come right up and introduce yourself.
Yeah.
There. Yeah, and you're on camera, so that's never fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. Actually, if you give it to me, I will email it to him in the morning. Thank you. I have one. I can actually email mine. I don't need an extra one. You're fine.
I can email it too, just so you have it as well. So thank you all. Thanks for letting us be here. My name's Melinda Kinney. Kate Foy and Stephen Holmes are here from my colleagues from Spectrum. And as you mentioned, just wanted to provide you guys with a little bit of an overview of Spectrum, our operations in Maine, and what we're doing to help expand broadband, especially with the county, within the communities within Androscoggin County, and then also just have an opportunity to provide answers and questions if you guys have questions about what's happening in broadband, and again, if we can help be a solution for some of the communities in your in the county, that's why we're here. So just kind of going through the presentation, just high level overview. Spectrum offers services to about 294 communities in Maine, and nationwide we provide services in 41 different states, but Maine is a pretty important state for us. We have about 448,000 customers and over 680 employees that are based right here in Maine. If you go to the second slide, it talks a little bit more about our workforce. Again, we've got 680 employees based in Maine. Last year, we hired 275 new employees. We have a call center based in Portland that actually is our mobile call center that handles all of the mobile calls for the United States. And we're continuing to grow, obviously grow our mobile business, but then also grow that call center as well. One of the key benefits about having so many employees in the state is that when we do have outages or issues, we've got a great resource, a great network, and a great boots on the ground to be able to restore services really quickly, because inevitably we always have storms and trees coming down on fiber, so some things you just can't help. The next slide, I just thought I would put in there, this past June, Spectrum was actually voted one of the best providers from U.S. News and World Report for providing broadband in rural areas. When Spectrum Charter purchased Time Warner Cable back in 2017, 2018. One of the interesting elements was that Spectrum was actually had a lot of service areas in rural areas, and obviously Maine fit the bill for that as well. And so it's great because they've got a lot of research, and then also experience in running operations in rural areas. The next slide talks about the broadband partnerships and really what we've done in Maine to date. So every year, Spectrum on its own invests in the state of Maine. Every year, we pretty much invest about $55 million in our technology and our infrastructure. We usually expand our network by 7,000 homes and businesses on an annual basis. And this past year, we're in the process of launching services in Newburgh, Etna, and Swanville. And those are all very rural projects, but we're doing fiber to the home builds in those areas. Connect Maine is another program that we've been participating in since 2006, since they got started. We were partnered with about 14 communities and increased services to about 1,400 homes and businesses across some fairly rural areas. And then ARPA, our favorite topic, which seems to came up a lot here tonight already. Since this past August, we've actually partnered with 11 different communities on projects that are really large and small in some respects, but it's a total of about 859 locations, which include mostly residential homes, but some businesses. And we're currently working with 80 different communities now to expand broadband throughout throughout our footprint. And so a couple of the communities that we are working with, one in Minot, we've got a project that we're kind of going back and forth on cost for about 83 locations, like mostly residential homes. And I know the town of Leeds was here recently, and we also presented them with an offer to a package to offer services to their unserved locations. Really, where Charter would contribute over $600,000 to the cost of the project. And the contribution for the town was about $230,000, which is what they were getting for their ARPA funding. So I know it doesn't seem like, I think that offer is obviously still on the table. I think they may be going in a different direction, but just wanted to point out a couple of the projects that we've been working on. The next slide is our current footprint in Androscoggin County. So these are all the communities that we serve. We don't serve Durham, but it also, I provided the list of locations, like basically how many residents and businesses have access to our service. This doesn't represent how many customers we have, but basically the universe of locations that would have access to Spectrum services. And trying to think. Okay, so then the next slide really talks about pricing and speed offerings, and we offer 1 gig in all of our areas today. And in the areas where we are launching our fiber to the home, we have 1,000 by 500. So there's a lot of discussion around like upload and download speeds right now. So our fastest service, residential service, is 1,000 by 35 or 1,000 by 500 if it's a fiber to the home area. But for businesses, we do it. We treat them they're treated separately, and they can get direct fiber connections today with multi-gigabit symmetrical services, whatever they need. So if you guys have a business that is looking to relocate, or business in town that doesn't have the bandwidth that they need, definitely let us know, because that's something that we can easily provision to make sure that they have those services that they need. I want to turn it over to Stephen. He was going to talk about the bulk program that we offer for communities. It's somewhat of a new program that the company is getting up and running, and I think that it's a really unique opportunity for folks for everybody in a community to get super fast speeds for a really reasonable price, and almost half off of what the retail price of the services. So I'll let him explain.
As the heading notes, it's our bulk program. It's basically, you can think of it like as a Sam's Club program. You buy wholesale. We have one customer, and that being the municipality itself. And we can bulk internet for the entire population of the town, city, and at a very aggressive rate for the entire town over a contracted period. And when I say aggressive, it is very aggressive, because on one of the other pages, you see the gigabit pricing was $134.99. It can certainly come in under $40 for a gigabit service. So very aggressive. We're in talks, proposals out right now with several towns in the state right now, so very hopeful, and it's very well being received. Any questions, let me know.
Talking to Lucid on that one?
Happy to, definitely happy to.
Right, and then obviously open to questions, and, but we also offer we have two low-income broadband programs right now. One of them is Spectrum Internet Assist, and that's been in place for quite some time. It's actually for families who have kids on the National School Lunch Program or seniors who receive supplemental security income. And so that is a 30 by 4 megabit per second service for $18 a month, essentially. And then we also do participate in the FCC's Affordable Connectivity Program. So I think that is, obviously, getting broadband access to everybody is one really critical piece, but I think affordability and adoption is also a really big piece of that puzzle too. So I think a lot of times the price can be inhibitive and cost prohibitive for folks to sign up. So that's all we've got in general, but I wanted to, again, have a conversation, leave my contact information if you guys have questions, like right now or later. But, yeah.
Right ahead.
Why are you not in Durham?
That's a good question. We've just never provided services, but I think it's something that we could look at. I can follow back up with you. I don't know why.
Okay.
Real simple question is, I have two towns that are presently having conversations about it, and I've been in their meetings when they've been talking about it. Who's the best person in your organization for them to contact?
So Shelley Winchenbach is the person, but I can email you her information
Okay.
or send you
Yeah,
a
that would
text
be
with
good.
it. Yep. She's based up in our Rockland office.
Great. Any other questions? Commissioner Michael?
This is a question more for Steve, but following up on
Yeah.
the other questions. Could the entire county put in a request for a bid?
Well, it's on a per-town basis, but we can, actually, we are doing some that.
Like in New
group-
York, I think, too.
Yeah, we're doing
Yeah.
some group,
County could request some numbers and then cut some deals with the towns and such, and maybe buy an even bigger buy and get the price down a little
Yeah.
bit more possibly, you think?
yeah, it's possible, yeah, yeah.
Big question, Commissioner Michaels.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, anything else? Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here.
Super, yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I would like to recognize the delegation here this evening from Poland, and I will let Commissioner Kelly introduce them.
I have the honor to represent District 6, which includes the towns of Poland, Mechanic Falls, and part of Auburn. And I take great pleasure this evening in introducing Matt Garside, Mary Beth Taylor, and Jane Pentheny, who represent the Select Board of Poland. They have some questions and concerns regarding the proposed tax increase.
Yes, thank you for letting me speak tonight. We do our budget fairly early because can I just pass this out? We do it quite early because we have our town meeting April 2nd. And so so we completed our budget and everything with the first amount that was given. So we were finalizing our warrants for our April 2nd meeting, and we received the county projected tax amount for $964,800 for the 2022-23. This included the valuation, okay? Because we did go up on that. We have been notified now that the tax is $1,018,941. We received no reason for the increase. As we looked into the matter more, we have the following questions. On line 9400, it says zero. This does not state the revenue for police services that we pay of $463,000. We went to a 24-hour police coverage. On line 93.7, the RSU 16 safety officer they have that number as zero when we knew in 2021 it was 99,000. We want to know why the county taxes show an increase of revenues, but when you look through the figures, it does not show the expenses that would cause the large tax increase, because this is a 12% increase for Poland. These are the questions we need answers, and we are asking, I believe Larry is always coming, I don't know if the treasurer is coming, I know that you'll be there, but we really want concrete interest, because when we look at your budget, we can't follow where this disappeared to. It may be in another fund, but it has nothing on that. And why, if we had our valuation in that first number, why then did it jump, and why are we paying 12%? But I also want to say, I'm very glad to hear about your ARPA funds, because we had a housing program that was all set to go, but then because of how much construction increased, they were not able to get it. So are you still taking applications for that? And could we put in for, it's a senior housing project, it's all set to go, but they were supposed to start in the fall, and they had to pull back because of their thing.
You're absolutely welcome to come make a presentation.
Great.
We'd love to have you.
right.
April 16th.
All right. What'd you say?
I think the deadline to get him in is like April 16th.
It's
Okay,
15th.
so we need to-
15th. I was off by a day.
All right, so we need to get it done before tax day.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Did you want to respond to that, or just?
Only that Terry and I have been invited, and Commissioner Kelly and I have been invited, and I told him I'd also bring somebody else smarter than I am that can answer the questions, and we'll very pleased to go and respond.
Thank you all so very much for coming this evening.
Did
We'll see you on the
anyone
15th.
else have anything to say from that group? Okay, yeah, thank you, and we take your concerns seriously, and if you don't get your answers, you come back, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, other comments from the public?
Good evening. Tim Cowan. I'm the president for the Community Little Theater. I would appreciate us having the opportunity to come back and talk with you. We had some additional information that we thought would be useful for your consideration of providing us some funding from the ARPA funds. And I'm going to speak to the first page on the right-hand side of the packet and really talk a little bit more about the economic benefits. Some of these data are tied to a pretty robust study on the economic advantages or impacts of community theater. So I wanted to, and that is in the packet as well. I did want to point out that one of the findings from that study there was a survey done in 2016, and 82% of Americans, that were 82%, believe that arts and culture are important to local businesses and the economy. That it's not just a high increase in the quality of life, but that there's money being poured in to other businesses beyond just the admission cost for the theater. It's also an important consideration when businesses and families want to move into an area. There are some statistics in the bullets at the bottom of that page. Between 2018 and 2021, there were a little over 2,500 people who attended one or more performances at Community Little Theater. I do want to point out that number very likely be larger had we not had to shut down for 18 months because of COVID. But we use that information because it did include, again, on the second page is a list that we provided originally as a reminder of where our patrons live. And they are in every county in Androscoggin County, every town in Androscoggin County. But importantly, there's over almost 850 individuals who come from the 5 counties surrounding Androscoggin County. So we're bringing folks in who can then spend money on that. And then in the study, again, that's behind that, the third item in the packet on the right, there is an estimate that we calculated for those 4 years that just shy of $80,000 were spent in local businesses. That's beyond the cost of admission to the theater. Again, I think that's a little conservative because we haven't had a full, we weren't open for almost 18 months. But it is based on what was the findings in that study, so we wanted to use that. There's an average, the study that looked at community theater in towns across the country, in every state, in every type of county, from every type of town, from urban, rural, suburban, small, and large. It was an average of $31.47 per person per event, so per performance attended, that they would spend on additional things, restaurants, going out for dessert, spending gas to get to and from. So thought that would be useful as you're considering the return on the investment of any dollars that you're choose to give to the theater. And finally, that last bullet, that over 20 years, CLT has spent or contributed nearly $4 million to the local economy just to put on the shows that we put on. So that's expending personnel costs for directors, music directors, musicians, but also for the services and the supplies and materials we need to put on high-quality community theater for the county. The second piece that I wanted to point out, and I'll have my colleague Bill Hamilton come and answer any questions you might have, is that when we came before, we provided you the full scope of our project, which is a very large and ambitious vision for the full renovation of the project. We know that you have gotten a lot of requests for dollars for the ARPA funds and have a lot to seriously consider. So we wanted to provide you some additional information. The renovation list of costs for the exterior building renovation in the left-hand side of the project packet, that's what we consider our highest priority, our first stage of that large long-term project. These are the costs that we would actually like to revise our request if this is the amount of $870,000. If you could seriously consider investing some of the ARPA funds towards this phase, that would make a great deal of help for us. So I'm going to turn it over briefly to Bill so that he can kind of highlight the needs here and answer any questions. And then John Blanchette just wanted to kind of update you some on the less tangible, less financially tangible aspects and outcomes of our mission and some of the things for you to consider. So, thank you. Bill.
For having us back for a second time. The building itself is the envelope that allows us to do what we can do for the community. And this particular building at this time in life needs to have,
Recording in progress.
oh, good.
Recording stopped.
Needs to have our exterior surface secured. There are just too many places over 100 years that now the top of arches of all, and there's multiple arches on that building, that it's starting to let water seep inside, which freezes, thaws, works on, and the brick itself, and especially at the bases of the building in certain places, just needs hard work. So we've started at the new canopy, or the canopy that I ripped down when I just decided I was not going to. Problem is, I'm an architect. And for years, I've been working with Little Theater and many theaters. And I designed a number of theaters. And I looked at that and I thought, look, if I don't have that taken down, and I didn't even call the city. I just called a contractor and said, we're going to support it temporarily and then we're going to take it down. And I talked to the city about it. And now we've done it, we've rebuilt it, and not tried to be building exactly what was there. We've tried to build a little more securely and without putting so much stress on the exterior skin of the building. So now we're trying to do that, and we've done that. So we've spent about $70,000, or will have spent $70,000 once we put the roof on, as soon as it gets warm enough. And the other two canopies, one of them is fine, one of them is not fine, and if you go over and look, you'll see that the scaffolding is under it to hold it up. Just because we don't want to, that one I think we can secure and keep the copper used that was there, because it was a very nice job. But the canopy that we're taking now, we put the copper inside. Someday I hope to use that on a renovation of the lobby, because I think it'll work there. On the outside, it's just too expensive. It was too twisted and broken. And so all of these things are just to get that outside thing. And the last thing on that building that really needs attention on the outside, except the roof is always going to need every 35 or 40 years. We've really got another 5 or 8 years that the roof will not need extensive work on. Then we got to look at that for $150,000. But the base of the building used to have, and still has in the ground, these underground wells, or these wells that allowed light to get into the basement, allowed some people to be able to get air out of it in the event of an emergency. But those have had too much work. There's too many people actually sleeping down in there by mistake, not in the building, but in the basement of those canopies. So it's taken it hard. And it's time to clean those out and to remove them. Just dig them away, fill up the openings with mortar, brick and mortar, and then put the earth back around them, improve the drainage system, and just get rid of that problem. Because we don't use the basement now as it was for locker rooms and things like that. Today it's used primarily for storage of some of our theater material, and it's also used as a dressing room. So that's pretty easy stuff to do. Also, we're hoping to, and we've been working with the city, and the city came to us with a suggestion that it was time to, they were willing to look at redoing the mechanical system from heating and ventilating. So if that gets done, there's an awful lot of people, I don't know if any of you have ever been to Little Theater, but if you have, in the summertime, it's not always optimal conditions when it's hot. In the wintertime, it's not optimal conditions because it's cold. But the city has talked about helping us. That would mean that the basement would not have the mechanical system that it has now. And so that also helps. So those are this exterior shell is what really makes the most sense to talk to you about. And I feel much more comfortable. I'd love to have anything, everybody would. But I feel much more comfortable saying, look, here's what is a real need for that building to continue to do for anything for us, not just us as well, but the community. So glad to be able to talk to you, and thank you very much for the opportunity to do it again.
Hold up one
Promise
second. Any
not to be
questions
back.
for Mr. Hamilton?
If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
The heating system that you mentioned,
Yeah.
who was going to pay for that?
No, the city is talking about trying to help us out on that.
Really?
Because, well, I tell you what they're doing. I think, I'm not an expert on this, on everything that goes on over there at the city, but the mechanical systems takes care of all the other buildings in the city. And I think that they finally said, look, they're willing to look, they're looking at the other buildings that have different needs. And they were saying they were willing to look at they came to us and said, we'd like to look more specifically now at doing something for your building. And the boilers are good old boilers, not very efficient, but they're good old boilers. But we have to take care of them all the time. That's what they require. So maybe we'll be able to improve the efficiency of that so that if we can take care of the outside of the building and somebody wants to worry about the boilers and give us a hand there, that would be great. Because then we'll work on the idea that in the future, the building needs to be really insulated right. It isn't insulated now. I mean, it's like the mills. But the opportunity to insulate it would mean that we'd move our walls inside and use our corridors on the outside. And that would make a little smaller space for us, but plenty of room for anything to take place in that building.
So you have it like a 99-year lease?
Yes.
You don't own it then? You don't own that building?
We don't own, but when you
Okay.
take a 99-year lease,
Yeah,
not
it-
everybody's smart,
No, it's
but we're doing our best.
it's a commitment, yeah.
And just to clarify that, what the city is looking
Recording
and
in
considering
recording stopped.
to add, put some of their ARPA funding towards the HVAC system. So there would be a generous consideration on their end. And we'd love to have some contributions from you as well. So.
We'd like to keep the heat inside that we get.
John, do you want to speak briefly?
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As an actor, I always appreciate an encore performance, so. Tim told you a little bit about the economic impact, how we kind of give back to the community. Bill talked to you about some of the nitty-gritty concrete details, and literally concrete. Masonry is, I think, our largest expense in what we're looking at in terms of the building. I'd like to try to put a face on the educational impacts. We talked to you last time about the fact that CLT is one of the primary providers of costumes throughout the central Maine area. We provided a page in here that lists 19 different schools. Notice that St. Dom's was missing. That's an omission that should be remedied, so that makes 20. Also, 6 different community theaters, and I noticed a couple of our irregular renters not listed, the Footlights in Falmouth, Portland Players, and in Biddeford, the Biddeford City Theater also were not listed. Of course, again, this is over a 5-year period, but 18 of those months were a time when we were closed down. We also do rent to outside organizations. For example, the Not So Normal Formal. Folks have rented from us on an individual basis. So we are doing what we can to provide assistance and education throughout, and assisting in education, particularly in the schools. The other thing I wanted to do is kind of quantify the impact we've had on some of the individuals who've come through communal theater. We provided last time a list of 31 names of individuals who've gone on to careers in the performing arts. And I'd like to highlight a couple of those. We gave 4 testimonials within the packet. 2 of them I'll just mention briefly. Steven Rosenberg was moved to Auburn when I think he was 12. His family moved here. I happened to be with him at the theater in 1991. It was a hot summer day. We were building a set for Anything Goes, and in walks George Vafiatis from the Public Theater, the Public Theater's founder. And he said, would either of you gentlemen be interested in building set as a career? Literally getting into the theater from the set construction side. And Steven said, yes. From there, he parlayed up to several jobs, including the technical supervisor for Blue Man International, working all over the world, and many people have heard of the Blue Man Group. And Steven was a great connection for tickets, in addition to a really fun guy. And just had a wonderful time, and again, attributes a lot of what he learned at CLT to his ability to get into this career, and most importantly, the passion he has for this. Another young man by the name of Ryan Adair was an Auburn native, and Ryan got involved in the production side of theater. He was an actor as well, very talented, but he really liked the production, putting things together, kind of bringing together all the various elements and making a cohesive whole out of them. He went to school, decided he did not want to go to the performance venue, wanted to go the production angle in television. He has since earned 6 Emmy nominations and actually earned 3 Emmys. He's building a new shelf, apparently. He's done very well for himself, and he's worked for all 4 of the major news affiliates. The 2 I would really like to highlight, one of the names is going to be very familiar to you, Beth Morrison, Chip Morrison's daughter. Beth was an avid music lover from a very early age, studied opera in school, but realized it's cutthroat. It's really tough. And she made a decision early on and said, I see a need here. I see a need for new and developing operas to have a voice, to have a way of getting out to the public. She formed BMP Productions. BMP Productions helps these new operas be staged. She was the first person in the country to provide what they call a black box or small opera experience. She pioneered this, and they're still considered the #1 company in the country for this kind of work. Now, interestingly, 3 years later, along comes Kevin Newbury. Kevin got involved in theater at an early age, went all the way through, went to school, studied business management, but always had a passion for the theater. Worked at Maine State Music Theater in the box office for many years, and kind of chucked the whole business angle of things and started directing opera. Lo and behold, Beth and Kevin meet out, I think it was in Missouri, when they did their first production together, and realized, hey, we're both from Auburn, Maine. What are the odds? Do you know this person? Do you know this person? Do you know this person? Opera in the United States is alive and well, primarily due to 2 people from Auburn, Maine. Now, this is a performing arts perspective. We have other people who've done music, television, movies, and actually Broadway shows, or off-Broadway shows, technically speaking. I don't think we have anybody on Broadway at the moment. We have had a real impact on these young people because they went on and did this for a living. More importantly, also note that not everybody goes into the performing arts. They understand, but they do it for the rest of their lives. And they might do other things. For example, Mayor Levesque once graced our stage as a young man in a production, and he said the skills that he got in community theater have helped him in his work as a public official. The impact of theater is so varied and so broad, it's really hard to quantify. But you need to understand that things like innovation, leadership, organizational qualities are developed in the theater, and these people take them on to further their careers. This is what communal theater means, and this is what communal theater brings to our community. Thank you very much for your time. Tim, did you want to finish off? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, other members of the public that would like to address the commission? Dave, anyone have their hand up online? Very good. All right, we'll go on to new business. And we've already had the community theater presentation, so let's go ARPA funding approvals. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Post.
We put that on each meeting now, in case there's something that you want to go back and revisit or take action on, but we don't have anything specific tonight to do.
Any commissioners have anything in particular you want to address on the funding approvals that are before us?
Those that have already been approved, or?
The funding approvals, it's pretty
No,
general.
it's for anything that's not been approved if you want to approve tonight.
Oh, no, but I mean, I think there's a change in the status of one of them, and that's Museum LA. They reduced their ask, and they want it all to go to HVAC,
Right.
which makes it suitable under the public health area.
You updated that.
Yes.
Okay, it's already changed on here. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
That up though, and bring that to the attention.
Okay.
Okay, net energy billing, Mr. Post.
Okay, this is going to be, well, I'll try to make it very short. As you know and have seen, we have had a proposal from the company to give us net energy billing. Is a solar company. The consultant that we use, Charlie Agnew from Competitive Energy Services, has been in contact. The company that he had brought forth earlier and that you have seen, the proposal, apparently they have run into some other significant issues, so that's probably off the table at this point. However, there are 2 or 3 other companies that they're looking into, and within the next month, we'll be looking to bring us another proposal. The proposals are all roughly the same, the contracts. I will just mention that you've seen concerns on two issues that we were provided with. One of the issues being it's a 20-year contract, and that's a long time. Most all of them are 20 years. As a matter of fact, the law says something about 20-year contracts. The second one being that if they produce, you can only get out of the contract if they produce less than 50% of the energy for a year. And that's true, but on the other hand, if we don't save money, they don't make money. And so their investors are going to ensure that, that they're going to be up and running more than the 50% for the year. So those two issues really can be taken apart pretty quickly. But so in essence, they'll be bringing us another company to look at and do business with. And the proposal will save us a significant amount of money over the 20-year period, so.
Any questions about that? I'm sure Commissioner Mason will have some questions about that. He's pretty zeroed in on that. Okay, reserve accounts, and again, I'm sorry, personnel policy. Is the treasurer presenting that, or are you presenting that, Mr. Post?
Ken?
Thanks. So this is an update to the vacation policy. It's to get us in compliance with the new law that came in effect in 2021. Basically, what it's doing is, instead of 1 year, it's bringing it down to 120 days that they can vacation. Part-timers will accrue 1 hour per hours worked. And the first 40 hours will be considered earned paid leave, and they can use for vacation, illness, emergency illness, or other sudden necessity. And I sent you a link to the law. This is, we looked at adding it to vacation time, sick time, or a standalone earned paid leave. And this seemed to be the least effect on the budget and the county. And so basically, we're just bringing down from a year to 104 months.
Yes, go right ahead.
But we don't have any choice legislation, right?
Well, we have to do
We don't.
something.
We have to
yeah.
do something.
Right.
Okay.
When we spoke, I had thought that the union, we had to bring them online at the time of their next contract. Am I right
Correct.
about that? Or
Yes,
do-
you are, yeah.
Okay.
I double checked, in my notes, all I said was union excluded. I didn't continue to write the rest of it.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's, when their contract expires, it has to be included.
Can we make sure that Dal and John have a copy of that link also, so that they can look at that for our next meeting?
Sure. I did, for the rest of you, I did mention that last night, at our last night's meeting, that we'd be looking at that and probably needing to make that change, and we do, so. But we'll get that to them.
Okay, and so, are there any questions, or?
Something we need to take action on tonight.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Because
We're a little bit behind enacting it, so would.
although every other county is behind in enacting it too, so
We'll get ahead
all
of
my
the curve.
colleagues out there are saying,
As
what
long
are
as
you
we're
doing?
ahead of the others, then we're good,
We are.
right? Okay. All right.
We're only slightly late, and anyway.
So do you need a motion?
Yes,
Yeah,
I would need a
okay.
motion.
I move that we approve the recommendation from the treasurer.
Okay.
Second that motion.
And that is Commissioner Plord with the motion, Commissioner Kelly with the second. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? And Commissioner Poirier, I need yours verbally, please.
Can you hear me?
There he is.
Ken. I just need a verbal. Okay, yes, okay, thank you very much. I just need that verbally from you. Okay, so that is 6-0. Okay, property acquisitions, and did you have any, you said you did, do you have anything
Reserve
further on the?
Reserve accounts will be next.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am, I'm getting ahead of myself, I want to go home. Reserve accounts, back to the administrator.
Actually,
I'll do it.
I'll let Clarice do
All
that
right,
because she's,
sure.
Yep, so in 2021, at the end of the year, the sheriff's office had $28,000 that they did not spend in motor vehicle expense line, and I'm recommending that $20,000 of that goes into a sheriff vehicle reserve to establish a reserve for the future. If approved, the sheriff's office will still be under budget by $147,000. And if approved, this will be placed in a restricted reserve for sheriff vehicles only and only be used with approval from the commissioners.
that's something we've been trying to do for a number of years, and it's time.
I like that, I like that a lot. Go ahead, yes.
The motion to accept the treasurer's request for the reserve.
Motion by Commissioner Ames.
Second.
Any other questions? All of those in favor? And I need a verbal from Commissioner Poirier.
Aye.
Thank you. 6-0. Okay, approved forfeited assets, Sheriff's Office.
You've done this before, some of you, although usually a lot higher in amount. This one, we're estimating it's about $1,200, but it doesn't have an amount in here because they haven't resolved the case. It's a technicality. You have to approve acceptance of the funds before we can accept the funds when the court gives us the funds. If that matters to any of you, I just figured I'd give you pretty much the background information on it.
We need a motion?
Need a motion
Yes,
to be able
yes,
to
we
accept
need, it's something we have to vote on.
I'll move we give the sheriff authority to accept the funds.
Commissioner Michaels makes the motion. Commissioner Kelly, second. Oh. And any other questions? All right, all those in favor? Ed, do you want to give me an up or down?
Trust us.
Oh, yeah.
Trust. And a verbal from Commissioner Poirier, please.
Approved assets.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any changes on things you have to report on the church or the YMCA?
Not at this point. You got everything at the last meeting, I believe.
On this that anyone would like to bring up? Okay, discussion items. Anyone? Okay,
Madam Chair.
yes, go right ahead.
On the, I'm not sure if this is the correct place, but it says the next meeting is March 16th. Are we having a workshop on March 9th?
I don't believe one is scheduled, but if you'd like to have one, we can have one, or is one scheduled and I
As
don't
chair,
know
you've
it?
scheduled a March 9th workshop to discuss dispatch issues.
Dispatch issues, thank you. Yes, and we're going to stay true to our word on that, just because you said I would never do it, so we're going to do it. Yes, so the answer to that is yes, thank you for the reminder.
So,
Okay. I didn't say we would never do it.
Thank you, yes, it's,
that's for all the commissioners or just the committee?
no, it's for the commissioners, yes, yes.
And if you guys have changed, it's for the commissioner's benefit, because there seemed to be some confusion over who we provide dispatch services for, how it's made up, the whole, and I think it's just a rundown orientation for your benefit. So if you've changed your mind, just let me know. But there was some confusion when we were discussing dispatch issues, so it was an idea for some of the new commissioners that weren't familiar with what it's made about and, how we're dispatching for ourselves as well as other communities. So it's more of an orientation for you. I think it'll be valuable from some of the conversations we've had to understand how it works and how the systems are working across the state. But if you've changed your mind, it's,
What day is that? It's,
Commissioners, can we schedule a tour through dispatch at the same time? For the, so, for the new commissioners, can we schedule a tour through dispatch at the same time?
yeah, we can do it before, after. Usually workshops are informal, so it'll be really easy. If you guys want to come in, I'll bring you through, I'll have dispatch prepared for it. And you can see, you know, the center in comparison to the rest of the building. I think you'll be pretty impressed.
is that the one downstairs?
That's the one downstairs.
Yeah, that's one I saw, yeah, okay.
Hold at our regular meeting time.
Regular meeting time, same place, same station. Okay, any other, I guess we're on the future agenda items. And one thing we need on the agenda is the conflict of interest. One thing I'd like to ask the commissioners if we could put on the agenda is I'd like to start the ball rolling on replacing the security system in the jail. And I didn't really want to discuss it tonight because I want to give the treasurer, 2 weeks to really look at it carefully and make sure that it fits in the ARPA, which, in my reading it does, but we'll go with her recommendation. Our security, the infrastructure, security system in the jail is at the end of its life, reasonable life. The manufacturer doesn't support parts for it any longer. This is a really good opportunity for us to invest in the jail without having to raise, have to raise it through taxation. So our ARPA funds can actually benefit, the budget many years in the future.
Fire Jeff could reiterate for reporting purposes.
Yes.
When she talks security system, the jail it operates under a control board. All movement in the jail, some of you have been in the control room. The control board is out of date, needs to be replaced. It's a significant investment. If ARPA applies, it's a huge opportunity, much like buying the property is, saves the taxpayers money. Part of what we've asked for consideration, not only replacing the control board with modern technology and have systems that mirror so we can use all of its functions properly. Right now, it's not working at 100% capacity because it's old. Is we want to, technology is smaller, things fit better, and there's these large consoles that are space consuming and we're worried about the ergonomics. So not only are we looking at the mechanics of the control board and the technology, the computers, the screens and all that stuff, we're looking at the setup of the whole room because we think it can be improved ergonomically and to be more proficient operable. And we think it's a great opportunity when we're discussing things that could be addressed with use of ARPA funds. As you know, the jail was just inspected last year. It's in great shape, but it's got some mechanical things that internally need to be replaced. I think this is probably the third or fourth control board system in my lifetime. So hopefully we can get it done. But when you read security in the paper, like I've learned that some people, they rely on everything from the Sun Journal. I'd like to say it's not security, it's just how the system and the facility works, operates on, is in need of improvement.
Not on there, this is just during for future agenda items. We were having, at the end, after we'd finished our business at the last union meet, or a couple of meetings ago, I'd asked just the general question. I wanted them to tell me about some things that were frustrating to them, and this is what came up. And so this is be a good time to fix it. And
That was on my list of what they're trying to get prices and so on from now, so.
Great.
It's in progress to stop moving, and so hopefully we'll have that before long.
Well, the way I'd like to move forward on it is to enlist somebody who really, this is such a substantial investment. I'd like to enlist, much like we did Harriman for the property, enlist somebody that really knows all the systems, all the products available out there, to work closely with our staff. And to whatever degree Mr. Post and the sheriff want to be involved, but in particular, work with Mr. Shute, find out what our needs are, and then make some recommendations to us. My preference would be somebody that doesn't have a horse in the race, somebody who's not selling it, somebody who just knows the system, and they can work on our behalf to
Yep.
find us what we need.
That makes sense.
Do we have anyone in mind who might be able to fill that role?
Well,
Dave-
I think that's something Mr. Shute would answer.
I think if you talk to Jeff, he's familiar with all the vendors.
Yeah, and Dave is as well.
Actually, yeah, that's what I've been doing for 20 years now, and I'll continue doing it. I'm the facility director, I'm maintaining it,
Madam
building
Chair.
systems.
Yes, go ahead. Roll,
So was this one, is the security system listed on a 5-year capital plan?
Control
in the
board.
budget?
control, I'm calling it the wrong word. We need to switch our terminology here. Control board. And it is on the
In the
5
control
years,
board, I
isn't it?
think we had it for next year.
Yeah.
And, you know, they were on that opposite year budget, and I know we've had a hang-up over when something was budgeted for and when it was done, I don't wanna, so it was in our 5-year plan. And what we're looking at there is, I would hope that the jail administrator would be more involved in this project than he has in others, because we wanna make sure that whatever we do, it's got the features that we're actually looking for that are appropriate for a jail and working with the vendors, rather than be missing out on things or, you know, since 2014, there's been features that we haven't been able to use because the technology didn't speak together. That would be our biggest concern. So regardless of who calls the vendor or gets in touch with them, I think, unless it has Jeff's sign off on it, I'll have some apprehension.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other future agenda items? Yes.
Remember Rosie that was with Journey House?
I do.
We gave her a little bit of spending money, and she referred some people over to me, I think it was REST, R-E-S-T, that has an outfit in Lewiston. They've only been there a couple of years. So I said, sure, so I met with 2 or 3 of those folks, and my expectations were exceeded. Their recovery, helping people out kind of outfit, different from Rosie's, which has beds. This place doesn't have any beds. And their attitude of getting people in the system and then back out onto the street was exactly like what I would dream of. So I was just so pleased I ran into them. I didn't know anything about them. I didn't know they were there. So I'd like to put them on the agenda, have them make a presentation.
Absolutely.
We can,
Where are they located?
they're on Main Street. Can't remember that, 240 or 208 or something. I'll get you the address. I'd like to go by and check it out. Maybe you can go with me.
If you could get the information too, so we can get it listed correctly on the agenda
Yeah.
to Mr. Post or to, yeah, to
What's the
Mr.
name?
Post.
Yeah, initials were R-E-S-T, recovery, something, something, something. And,
Get that to me, John, if you would,
Yes, yes.
please.
Okay, any other future agenda items? A motion to adjourn.
Second.
And that was a motion by Commissioner Ames, second by Commissioner Kelly. All those in favor? You have a nice night. What's left of it?
Madam Chair?